Hello, Leo, the radiant fire of the Zodiac. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness. If you're here, let me ask you something bold. What if the darkness you're feeling right now is not an ending, but the beginning of your breakthrough? Take a breath and really feel that. Today's horoscope isn't just a forecast, it's a spiritual checkpoint. And this video isn't here by accident. No. If this found its way to you, if you found your way here, it means something deeper within you has already begun to awaken. Because Leo, I know you've been carrying something lately. Maybe it's confusion about your path, a pressure in your chest that won't go away, or just a quiet ache that whispers, there has to be more. Well, there is. And today, you're going to remember it. May 18th brings with it a unique cosmic pulse. Shadows may be moving around you, in your finances, in your energy, in your relationships, but they are not here to destroy you. They are here to reveal you, to push you inward so you can rise outward. And if you've been noticing angel numbers like 111, 777, or 888, trust me, those aren't coincidences. They are cosmic nudges, divine echoes, reminders from the universe that something powerful is aligning. If any of those numbers have appeared for you recently, type them in the comments. Not just to tell me, but to tell yourself, I'm listening. I'm awake. I'm ready. Because this is more than a reading. This is a remembrance. A reconnection to your inner fire. And Leo, you are ruled by the sun for a reason. Even when clouds gather, even when the sky darkens, the sun never disappears. It's just waiting. And you, too, are waiting, not for someone else to save you, but to reclaim yourself. So stay with me. We're going to dive into the messages that tarot, astrology, sacred numbers, and vibrational colors are revealing for you today. And by the end of this journey, I believe you'll see the shadows not as signs of loss, but as gateways into your next evolution. Let me also take a sacred moment to thank you, yes, you, for being here. Every like, every comment, every share, and every new subscriber doesn't just support this channel, it helps awaken the collective energy of this space we're building together. Eternal mindfulness is not just content, it's a soul community. And your energy is a vital part of it. Your presence here is not passive. It's powerful. And I hope you know, I truly feel it. Now, before we step into the first card of your reading, I'll leave you with one question. What part of your soul called you here today, and are you ready to hear its answer? Let's begin. When the Tower card enters your energetic field, it rarely arrives with gentleness. But what most people fear about this archetype isn't the collapse, it's the confrontation. The Tower doesn't destroy your life out of cruelty, it clears the false, the expired, the unsustainable. It brings a necessary ending, not because you've failed, but because something in your current structure is no longer aligned with your truth. And as painful as that sounds, it is often the purest form of compassion the universe can offer. When life begins to feel misaligned, when things you counted on begin to slip, when relationships grow cold without explanation, when your body sends signals of fatigue and tension that no longer respond to your usual self-care, it's not random. These are the early tremors, the quiet rumbles before the Tower strikes. And when it does, it doesn't ask for permission. It asks for your surrender. Astrologically, this May 18th is stirred by the electric influence of Uranus clashing subtly with lunar emotions, a planetary whisper that says, change is no longer optional. It is sacred. This is why you might feel internal chaos, a sense of being off without a clear cause. It's not because you're broken. It's because something within you is waking up and refusing to stay confined in the same shell. We often think of strength as holding on. But in reality, true strength lies in knowing when to let go. Just as the storm does not apologize to the tree it uproots, the universe does not apologize when it removes what you've outgrown. There's a deeper intelligence at work, one that sees beyond comfort, beyond pride, beyond habit. And when it moves through your life, it asks you to soften, to loosen your grip, to trust the collapse as part of your evolution. In this way, the tower is not punishment. It is release. It is the unbinding of your spirit from a version of life that could no longer contain your becoming. This is the medicine that clears the clutter. The paradox is that destruction paves the path for deeper stability, because nothing real is ever threatened. There is a quiet teaching here. The more you resist the fall, the more it shakes you. But if you allow it, if you breathe through it, feel through it, and name what is leaving not with fear but with gratitude, then you begin to participate in the reordering. You become the one who chooses to rebuild, not from obligation, but from clarity. Write it down. What are 3 things that exhaust you but you keep clinging to? What part of your identity have you wrapped around someone else's expectations? What structure in your life looks strong from the outside, but inside, you know it's cracking? Choose one. Just one. And in your heart, whisper your release. Not as rejection, but as return, to yourself, to your light, to the spaciousness that awaits you on the other side of surrender. In stillness, the walls fall quietly. In awareness, collapse is not loss, it is liberation. And when the debris settles, what remains is not ruins. What remains is the you that was always meant to emerge. When the 6 of Pentacles shows up in your field, it brings more than just a message about money. It reveals the emotional patterns hidden behind every transaction. For Leo, a sign driven by heart-centered generosity and a natural instinct to lead and uplift others, this card offers a moment of reckoning. There's a fine line between abundance and depletion, between giving from overflow and giving from emptiness. And right now, that line may be starting to blur. Financial energy, much like breath, relies on rhythm. There is an inhale, what you receive, and an exhale, what you give. When this rhythm is disrupted, when the giving becomes habitual and unconscious while the receiving is neglected or guilt-ridden, imbalance sets in. The danger lies not in generosity itself, but in the silent erosion that happens when you stretch beyond your limits and call it kindness. If you've noticed a recurring cycle of feast and famine, not just in money, but in time, energy, and emotional availability, this is your invitation to pause and examine the deeper story. What are you trying to prove when you keep saying yes? Who are you trying to save, and why does your value feel tied to being the provider, the supporter, the hero? Often, behind the urge to give endlessly is a quiet fear that if we stop, we won't be needed. That if we don't give, we'll no longer be loved. But love and worthiness are not currencies to be earned, they are truths to be remembered. From a higher perspective, the act of withholding, of choosing yourself, is not selfish. It is wisdom. You are not a well that exists solely for others to draw from. You are a living ecosystem. And when your inner resources are exhausted, the outer structures of your life begin to suffer, bills pile up, energy runs low, relationships become strained. The outer reflects the inner, always. This is a powerful time to redefine your relationship with financial flow. You don't need to wait for crisis to make a change. Begin small. Create containers that serve your wholeness. Let 10% go towards savings, not out of fear, but as a ritual of trust in your future self. Let 10% be invested in your growth, a book, a class, something that feeds your spirit. And let the rest move through your life with presence. No more numbing purchases, no more guilt-driven generosity. Spend not to impress or suppress, but to express your alignment. Money is a mirror. And every time you open your wallet, you are voting for the world you want to live in, internally and externally. The ancient teachings say that the root of suffering is attachment. That includes attachment to roles, to appearances, to the need to be the one who always gives. Let go of the belief that you must bleed in order to be seen as good. Let go of the need to fix everything for everyone else while quietly falling apart. There is no nobility in self-erasure. There is only exhaustion. You are allowed to hold back. To pause before swiping the card. To say no when your energy says no. To receive. To ask. To prioritize your own stability. And if that feels uncomfortable, it's okay. Discomfort is often the first sign that you're rewriting an old script. So today, gently declare, I am learning to manage my financial energy with awareness. I choose balance. I choose sufficiency. I choose myself. And from that place of enoughness, everything else can finally start to flow. There is a moment in every journey when protecting your energy becomes more sacred than sharing it. When the Seven of Wands appears alongside the Justice and Emperor cards, it is not calling you to fight harder, but to discern more clearly. It is a call to create boundaries that honor your essence, not out of defense, but out of devotion to your well-being. Because Leo, you are ruled by the sun, your light is meant to shine, but even the sun needs space to rise without being dimmed by endless demands. It's easy to forget, especially for someone like you who leads with warmth, that not every connection is a healthy one. Sometimes, what appears to be love is actually depletion in disguise. A job that once inspired you now leaves you emotionally hollow. A relationship that used to feel full of promise now thrives on silence, distance, or manipulation. The truth is, you cannot be the source of light for everyone without first tending to the fire within you. There's a teaching that reminds us, if you do not value your time, your energy, your love, others will mirror that same carelessness. This isn't a punishment, it's simply reflection. Life meets us at the level of clarity we hold. And clarity begins with choice. You do not owe endless explanation. You do not owe access to those who take without giving. Saying no is not cruelty, it is wisdom. It is the conscious act of saying yes to your inner peace. When justice appears, it asks you to realign with truth, not the version others want you to uphold, but the one that lives in your gut, in your breath, in the tightness of your chest when something just doesn't feel right anymore. Justice reminds you that your life does not belong to other people's opinions. That you are not required to stay small so others can stay comfortable. And most importantly, that walking away is not weakness. Sometimes it's grace. Then comes the Emperor, the one who reclaims their throne not by force, but by remembering they were never meant to live on their knees. This archetype within you knows structure, knows authority, knows when to let in and when to close the gate. It knows that your time, your love, your attention are currencies, and that without discernment, you will always be in energetic debt. In relationships, this may mean facing the heartbreak of being unseen. The silent rejection that comes not in loud words, but in consistent absence. And that ache is real. But it does not define your worth. The people who cannot hold your light were never meant to walk beside it. And letting go of them is not abandonment, it is liberation. It is returning that energy to yourself so you can begin again, stronger, clearer, and no longer apologizing for who you are. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to protect your joy. You are allowed to choose peace over proving. So ask yourself, where in your life are you leaking energy? What conversations leave you smaller than you arrived? What patterns are you sustaining just to avoid discomfort, when in truth, that discomfort is your guide? To honor your boundaries is not to shut the world out, it is to invite in only what reflects your light back to you. What expands you? What nourishes rather than drains? And perhaps the greatest boundary you'll ever learn to hold is the one between who you used to be and who you're ready to become. Healing is not always a grand awakening. Sometimes it's a quiet return. When the Sun, Four of Wands, and Ace of Wands appear together, they don't demand that you become something new, they invite you to remember what you already are. And for Leo, whose essence is radiant, expressive, and alive with fire, this remembering is sacred. After all the chaos, the depletion, the letting go, what remains is the core of you, unapologetic, bold, and beautifully human. The Sun card is a gentle affirmation that even after the longest night, dawn is inevitable. But it's more than just a symbol of hope, it's a reflection of your vitality. This card doesn't ask you to fight for the light. It reminds you that you are the light. And if you've forgotten that, it's okay. Light can be obscured, but it's never extinguished. Your joy, your passion, your truth, they're still there, beneath the layers of stress, of sorrow, of silence. They're waiting for your permission to rise. Four of Wands offers a resting point. It's the energy of harmony, safety, belonging. It's the structure you build not from ambition, but from alignment. If things in your life have felt unstable or disconnected, this card says, start where you are. Clean a space. Open a window. Cook a nourishing meal. You don't have to escape your reality to feel better, you just need to return to it with gentleness. Healing doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. Ace of Wands ignites a fresh start, but not in the way that forces you into urgency. Instead, it whispers, you're allowed to want again. You're allowed to dream again, to feel again, to begin again. This is especially powerful for Leo, who often carries a silent pressure to be on, to lead, to inspire. But now is not about performance. It's about authenticity. You don't need permission to be yourself. You only need to stop holding back. From a deeper lens, this moment offers a practice of awareness. The teachings remind us that suffering often arises when we resist the truth of now. When we cling to what was or worry about what might be, we fracture our inner peace. But when we come back to this moment, this breath, this step, this flicker of warmth in our chest, we meet life as it is, and that is the beginning of healing. Your body is speaking to you too. If you felt restless, fatigued, or emotionally volatile, it's not weakness, it's information. It's your system asking for relief. Start small. Drink warm water with lemon in the morning. Cut back on the caffeine that spikes your nervous system. Give yourself 1 hour without screens each evening so your mind can exhale. And above all, step outside. Let the actual sun touch your skin. Let it remind your cells of their brilliance. Stand still, close your eyes, and say softly, I am returning to myself. I am whole. I am strong. I am light. Nothing about healing needs to be dramatic. It just needs to be honest. And the most honest thing you can do right now is show up for yourself, not with judgment, but with compassion. You are not broken. You are becoming. And every breath you take in awareness, every act of care you offer yourself, is proof that the light within you has never left. It only needed space to shine again. Numbers and colors speak in ways that words cannot. They hold vibration, frequency, and memory, subtle languages that bypass the mind and speak directly to the soul. As we move deeper into this week's energy, the presence of the numbers 3, 6, 10, and 19 is not random. Each of them carries a vibration specifically tuned to your current evolution, and each offers a doorway into a more aligned version of your life. The number 3 appears when it's time to open your voice, your heart, and your creativity. It invites expression, not just artistic, but emotional. If there's something you've been keeping inside, this is your sign to let it out gently, whether through writing, conversation, or a simple act of authenticity. 3 is the breath that expands after a long silence. It's the space you create when you allow yourself to feel without filtering. It says, you don't need to have it all figured out to begin. You only need to begin. Then comes the number 6, often misunderstood as soft or domestic. But 6 is the quiet warrior of love. It calls you back to harmony, not perfection, but wholeness. This number encourages reconciliation, not just with others but within yourself. There is a healing here that goes beyond fixing. It is about integrating the parts of you that were once in conflict, your desire to move forward and your need to feel safe, your inner fire and your tender heart. 6 teaches you that home isn't a place, it's the feeling you create when you're fully present in your own being. Number 10 is the circle and the threshold. It reminds you that endings are not failures. They are fulfillments. Something has completed, whether it's a habit, a relationship, or a version of you that no longer resonates. And while there may be grief, there is also space. 10 invites you to step forward not with fear, but with clarity. You do not owe your future to your past. The wheel has turned, and now it's your turn to choose with intention. And then there is 19, the sacred number of Leo. This is solar energy at its most refined. The light that has passed through shadow. The self that has been tempered by truth. 19 doesn't just represent rebirth, it represents sovereign rebirth. Not because someone gave you permission, but because you gave it to yourself. This is where you rise, not in rebellion, but in radiance. Alongside these numbers, you're also being guided by specific color frequencies. Gold shimmer helps you remember your worth and attract opportunity without force. It resonates with the solar plexus, the center of confidence, willpower, and self-recognition. Garnet red grounds you, especially when you feel scattered or overwhelmed. It strengthens your connection to the present moment and brings you back to what truly matters. Navy blue deepens your inner seeing. It helps you quiet the noise and hear your own knowing with greater clarity. These colors aren't just aesthetics, they are allies. Let them show up in your wardrobe, your journal, your environment. Let them guide your mood and anchor your choices. Energy flows where attention goes, and color, like number, is one of the purest tools to redirect that flow. If nothing else, carry this affirmation with you into the days ahead. I do not fear the dark, because my light is greater. I walk forward not because I know every step, but because I trust the path will rise to meet me. I am ready for the breakthrough that has always belonged to me. You don't need to force your transformation. You only need to allow it. And right now, you are more ready than you think. If you've stayed with me until this moment, then I know there is something stirring within you, something ancient, something bold, something ready to return to the surface. Maybe it's a truth you've buried under years of pleasing others. Maybe it's a dream you once whispered to the stars and then tucked away out of fear. Or maybe, it's simply the quiet realization that you no longer want to live in pieces, holding yourself back for the comfort of others. Leo, I know this hasn't been easy. I know some days it feels like everything is stacked against you, your finances stretch thin, your energy fades quicker, and the people you've given your heart to seem further away than ever. But this is not the end. This is a sacred threshold. This is the place between who you've had to be and who you finally get to become. You were never meant to carry the world on your back. You were never meant to rescue everyone at the cost of yourself. So I'm asking you now, as someone who believes in the fire still burning in your chest, can you let go of the weight that was never yours to begin with? Can you walk away from the roles that made you feel invisible, and instead step into a life where you are seen, heard, and held, first and foremost, by yourself? Place your hand on your heart. Breathe into it like you're coming home. Ask yourself softly, where in my life have I abandoned me? And then, as gently as the sunrise, offer yourself the forgiveness you've been waiting for. You don't need to have the answers. You just need to return to your light, one breath, one choice at a time. You are not here to prove anything. You are here to remember everything. You are here to return, to joy, to clarity, to courage. And yes, even to the mess. Because healing is not about perfection, it's about permission. Permission to be messy and radiant. To be soft and powerful. To be learning and already enough. So now I ask you, what was the one sentence in this video that made something inside you pause? What is one thing you're ready to release? Or one truth you're ready to reclaim? Share it in the comments below. Or, if you feel shy, just type a number, an angel number that's been following you, or one that you want to claim as your own. Let that be your declaration, I am listening. I am changing. I am returning. And before you go, let me take a moment, from the very center of my being, to thank you. For every like, every comment, every moment you've spent here. You may not realize it, but your presence is part of a wave. A ripple of awakening, of light, of truth. Every time you support this space, you help keep it alive, not just for yourself, but for the collective energy we're all part of. So if this touched your heart, please like the video, subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness, and let the universe know you're open to receiving more of what aligns. Because I promise you, what's coming next for you is bigger than the silence you've endured, deeper than the wounds you've healed, and brighter than you even remember yourself to be. You don't have to save the world today, Leo. You just have to save yourself. And from there, everything will change.